Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel Firdaus Moroccan Cuisine. Today I'm gonna be sharing with you how to make Moroccan buns with anise, sesame seed and stuffed with chocolates. These buns are great for breakfast or to have them as a snack after your lunch with coffee if you're craving for something sweet, and usually I make big quantity out of them and then I freeze them. So for the ingredients, I will need half cup of vegetable oil. I will need 2 tablespoons of powdered milk. I will need 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. Use organic butter. I have 2 eggs, and then I will save the egg yolk of 1 egg until the end. I have half cup of sugar, but if you like them sweet, you can put 1 cup of sugar. I have a teaspoon of dried yeast. I have about 2 cups of milk, and I have 8 grams of baking powder. I have about a half teaspoon of salt, or you can just use your hand and use a pinch of salt. And I have about a teaspoon of lemon zest. You can also use orange zest. So for the chocolates, I use it for the stuffing inside. The seeds here are optional, so I have 2 tablespoons of anise and 2 tablespoons of sesame seed. So if you don't like this kind of flavor seeds, you don't have to use them. And the last thing I have here is about 1 kilogram of all-purpose flour. So here the first step I'm gonna do is to put in my ingredients into the mixer gradually. I start with the liquid ingredients and then I'll add the rest one after the other. And then if you don't have a mixer, it's not actually a problem. It's better to make the dough by your hand. That way you know that you feel the texture. Does it need more flour? Does it need more milk to be softened? Because for these buns, the key is of their success is the dough has to be soft. Next I added my 2 tablespoons of powdered milk. I added my sugar, and here I added 1 teaspoon of the dried yeast that I dissolved in a little bit of warm water. I'm gonna add that pinch of salt or half teaspoon of salt and the lemon zest. So I'm gonna mix these ingredients first before I go to add in the other ingredients. So here I will add my sesame seeds and anise. So just one thing about the sesame seed, when you go buy them, usually you find them white colored. So if you find the golden one, buy them. If you don't, then white will do, but just put them a little bit in the oven until they're brown, and then you can use them. Here I'm changing the attachment of the mixer from the wire whip to the dough, and I'm gonna start putting my flour little bit by little bit. So I started with about 500 grams and I let it to be mixed very well. Then I will see the texture if it needs more or not. So for these buns, it's important that the texture of the dough is soft, not so hard, so they can be fluffy from the inside. I added here the other 500 grams of the flour, and I added my 8 grams of baking powder, and I put it back into the mixer for about 5-10 minutes. Here, after my dough was mixed, I'm gonna put saran wrap on top of it and leave it to rest for half an hour, so that way it gets softened and it can rise a little bit. After that, I'm gonna add my 2 tablespoons of butter. If you don't want to do this step, then you can add the butter at the same time. When I added my last 500 grams of flour and the baking powder, you can add butter at the same time, then you let it rise at once. So in this step, after kneading the dough for about 10-15 minutes, when I added the butter, I'm gonna cover it again with saran wrap and I'm gonna let it to rise before I make buns out of it. And I'm gonna put the egg yolk on top and sprinkle some sesame seeds and into the oven. So to know that our dough is ready, you have to make sure that the size is doubled from when you covered it. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna air it out. So I just work it a little bit by my hands, and I'm gonna make buns the size I want. So I'm making them medium. My key here is that when you have one, then you don't need the second one. I then take the quantity of the chocolate that I want to put inside, and here I have milk chocolate. You can use dark chocolate, you can use white chocolate, and actually the best way in these buns, if you have Nutella and you like Nutella, that's actually the best option, is you put a teaspoon in each bun and then you just place them in the pan. So once I finish with all my dough, I'm gonna press on the buns a little bit just to give them that round shape, and I'm gonna leave them sit for 5 minutes. After my buns have rested for 5 minutes, I'm gonna now egg wash all of them, and I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of sesame seed on top while I have my oven preheated for 350 degrees, and I put them in, and usually they take half an hour to 45 minutes maximum. And if you have a fan in your oven, they cook even faster. So the case that you check the bottom that they're cooked and then you put them to the top. This is the final result of our buns after they've been in the oven for 35 minutes. And again, the key here, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's important to knead the dough very, very well so they can be fluffy from the inside. I hope you all liked today's video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share with your friends and family so our family can grow. And thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.